Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Step Up Savannah's Step Up Live. We are so excited about tonight's opportunity to learn more from our partners. We're here with Inspiritus, Georgia Legal Service, and Catholic Charities to learn more about our Afghan and Haitian neighbors coming to our community and the services that are available to serve them. Step Up is available for information, connections, and you can find us on all social media channels, including YouTube, Step Up at Step Up Savannah, on Facebook, and on Twitter. You can also reach us at our website at www.stepupsavannah.org. My name is Alicia Johnson, and I'm the Executive Director here at Step Up. And again, we are so excited for you to learn more about Step Up, our work, and our collaborations with our partners. Step Up Savannah was a poverty reduction initiative that began in 2008 with a lot of our partners, to include our municipalities, both the city and county, as well as Savannah Economic Development Authority and the school district and some of our corporate partners. We offer not only direct service programming, but we also act as an advocate, a convener, a collaborator, and an overall capacity builder to connect people and service providers to address the complicated issues around economic inclusion here in the Southeast region of Georgia. At Step Up, we desire and strive to promote economic inclusion and financial security. We believe that Savannah is a community where all people have hope, and hope is more than a warm and fuzzy feeling. Hope for us at Step Up is the confident expectation of a favorable outcome, that anyone born in Savannah or visiting Savannah or connected or desire to move here, that we have the systems and networks in place to ensure that their children and families can thrive. And we also believe that Savannah is a community where people can have opportunity. And we know as direct service providers that access doesn't always equal opportunity. And so it requires us to create some bridging capital to advance the lives of some of our underserved communities. We challenge injustice, and we want all of our community members to step up to create a more economically inclusive community. Equity is a core value at Step Up Savannah, and we are committed to diversity and inclusion by honoring experiences, perspectives, and unique identities. And together with our partners like Georgia Legal Services and Inspiritus, Step Up strives to create and maintain a working service, learning, and collaborative environments that are inclusive, equitable, and welcoming. Some of our core values, you'll hear us talk tonight more about direct servicing and supports, because we want to ensure that we're a community that prizes and strives for economic inclusion. And that means that we support the economic mobility and self-sufficiency of all of our community members, and that we create opportunities for those living in the Savannah-Chatham area to experience that. We also believe in equity, and equity is different from equality, because equity recognizes that each person has different circumstances and allocates the exact resources that are and opportunities that are necessary to reach an equal outcome. And we also believe in integrity and hope. We love Brene Brown's definition of integrity, which means choosing courage over comfort, choosing what is right over what is fun, fast, or easy, and choosing to practice our values rather than simply professing them. And so that's why we're here tonight, to extend opportunities for you, along with us, to help support those that are coming to the Savannah-Chatham area. Here at Step Up, we're striving to, in our work, to create social impact. And so we've established pillars for alignment for our work. We want to center those who've been systematically disenfranchised and marginalized. We partner across all of our programming to collaborate for the purpose of advocacy and capacity building. We lift up and advocate promising solutions that are system-oriented. And we seek to incubate and evaluate local and regional solutions and programming for effectiveness and also expansion. And lastly, we want to amplify those who we are impacting every day with our work and humanize the work and share the story. As we'll be discussing tonight about those who are coming to our community from Afghanistan and Haiti, we want to recognize that, hey, refugee is an aid category. It's not necessarily a person. And so we want to make sure that you are aware of all of the work and agencies that are here to support those families, and that you could offer a helping hand by just having this information available at your agency or at your church or your school, that you can pass this along. At Step Up Savannah, we have several direct service programs that include our AmeriCorps Vista program, our Chatham Apprentice program, which is our workforce development program. We have a financial literacy program called Level Up. We have a neighborhood leadership program, and that trains community level advocates to advocate for themselves, for the system, and support the community and underserved communities. We have our public benefits program that helps to enroll and support people who are on public benefits. And we have a work and family network, and all of our partners here tonight, Georgia Legal Services and Inspiritus, is a part of that working family network. If you'd like to learn more about Step Up's programming and Step Up's work, again, you can check us out online at www.stepupsavannah.org. So tonight, again, we're going to be on with three of our partners, Inspiritus, Georgia Legal Services, and Catholic Charities of South Georgia. And I'm going to turn this segment of our education session over to Kimberly Polk, our public benefits manager. And again, welcome to Inspiritus, Georgia Legal Service, and Catholic Charities. We're so excited to have you here and to learn more about all of the great work that you're doing in the community and how we at Step Up and those listening can support that effort.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alicia. So as Alicia said, we're here with Georgia Legal, Inspiritus, and Catholic Charities, and we have some great content for you today. Here from Georgia Legal Services is Dura Aziz and Nicole Sherman. And the Georgia Legal Services Program is a nonprofit corporation whose mission is to provide civil legal services for persons with low incomes, creating equal access to justice and opportunities out of poverty. With us from Inspiritus is Lindsay Bernstein, and Inspiritus guides individuals and families on a path from surviving to thriving. They empower those whose lives have been disrupted to discover their strengths and resilience, accompanying them as they grow into vibrant contributors to their community. From Catholic Charities, we have with us Cynthia Kinnis, and Catholic Charities of South Georgia oversees the Catholic Charities programs for the Roman Catholic Diocese of Savannah. Their mission is impelled by the love and teaching of Jesus Christ. They work in collaboration with parish communities and other organizations to serve the needy in South Georgia, respecting the dignity and potential of each human person. They offer life-giving programs, advocate for the voiceless, and empower the poor and vulnerable to foster a more just Society. They're an affiliate member agency of Catholic Charities USA and the local point of contact for Catholic Campaign for Human Development, Catholic Relief Services, and Catholic Legal Immigration Network. Today's topics and today's goal is to educate the social safety net in our community about our Haitian and Afghan neighbors and build capacity to assist with their needs. The topics include Afghan and Haitian backgrounds and current experiences, the services and benefits available to Haitians and Afghans in the referral process, their current needs, and a call to action. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Zara Aziz over at Georgia Legal Services. Zara?
Thank you so much, Kimberly. And thank you to everyone who's joining us today. So again, my name is Zara Aziz. I'm with Georgia Legal Services. And I wanted to start off a little bit on cultural competency. So many of us as service providers, we're welcoming our new neighbors into our communities and helping them to assimilate in the United States. A lot of times after people who have escaped some really traumatizing circumstances. And so because of that, it's important to be somewhat familiar with the culture and customs of people who we're serving, just so that they can feel more welcome when they arrive here. And that's why I wanted to open up with just a few cultural competency tips for our service providers. So overall, just learning about the communities that we serve is really important. And I provided a few training links in this slide. So the first two are YouTube videos online, just available to anyone. The first one is by Dr. Agenor, who discusses cultural competency for the Haitian community. And the second one is by Firshta Taib, who discusses the same subject for the Afghan community. They're both a little bit older, but the substance of the material is applicable today as well. There's one option by the Islamic Speakers Bureau, where they're an organization based in Atlanta, and they offer cultural competency training for Afghan communities. Their services are generally free. They only ask for an honorarium. And the final resource there is from Catholic Charities. It's a PDF that discusses who asylees are. And just finally, on a note to end with on here, this is a very common misconception just across the US of what to call a person from Afghanistan. So Afghani is a term that's used very commonly, understandably so, because the surrounding countries kind of the term for calling, for example, a person from Pakistan, a bordering country of Afghanistan, is Pakistani, so it's understandable. But Afghani is actually a currency that's used in Afghanistan. It's not used to describe a person. So the proper term is Afghan, just so we're on the same page about that. So now I'll transition to talk about a different subject, and that is the new arrival legal statuses. So this part of the presentation is, the purpose is to kind of give an understanding of the legal statuses that people are arriving through. And it's because a lot of times when we're hearing conversations about our neighbors, our new arrivals, they're referred to as refugees generally, when in fact that for a service provider is not as helpful, because to know what type of services your client has access to, it's helpful to know their immigration status. So at Georgia Legal Services, for example, we don't do immigration, but sometimes it's helpful to know about the subject to better serve our clients. And so the main types of statuses that I have listed here are well, I guess the categories of statuses that I have listed here are refugees and then parolees. So the difference, there's a large distinction between these two categories. And just to clarify, when I say categories, I'm strictly referring to immigration statuses and not the people who have them, of course, because we're not objectifying anyone who has a different status. So with refugees, the most important thing to remember is that they have a clear path to citizenship, one, and two, they have a very wide access to public benefits, almost the same extent as US citizens. And so that's why it's very important to distinguish that category from parolees. Now, parolees do not always have full access to the benefits, the public benefits, one, and two, they don't have a clear path to citizenship. Most of the time, parolees have to have a temporary status that's from 1 to 2 years, and they will have to adjust their status somehow in order to remain in the United States. So the types of parolees include humanitarian parolees, special qualified immigrants, and temporary protected status individuals, and also asylees, which asylees is actually could encompass all of them, because all of them could pursue the asylum status. And then with the refugee category, just going back to that briefly, it encompasses only two, and that's the traditional refugee that we think of, and then the second is the special immigrant visa. So moving on. Okay, so we'll start off with a little bit of background on the refugee status. So refugees are, they constitute individuals who flee their home country due to fear of persecution. And that persecution is based on several different things. It could be race, it could be their religion, it could be their nationality, membership in a particular social group, something very sensitive to their being. And due to that persecution, that individual was forced to flee into a third country and processed in that third country. They did their immigration processing there. Common misconception, like I mentioned earlier, is that many people who arrive from very tragic circumstances are considered refugees. In actuality, only 1% of refugees are resettled into the United States. Most of these people actually remain in resettlement camps for the rest of their lives, or for a significant number of years. So that's the first. The second is the special immigrant visa. So this is particular to Afghan nationals. So individuals with this immigration status worked to some degree with the US military, and either directly for the US military or through the International Security Assistance Force. And most commonly, the individuals who have this status will be translators who help the US military. So they translated Dario Pashto, and the Afghans as well. This status is also available for Iraqi nationals as well. Okay, next slide. I believe Lindsay wanted to discuss a little bit more about the circumstances the refugees escaped from.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Zara. So I'm Lindsay with Inspiritus, formerly Lutheran Services of Georgia. And just quickly, Zara did a great job talking about what our refugees fleeing from the country, when they do that, when they cross an international border and they register with the UNHCR, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, like she said, most people will spend their entire lives in these refugee camps, and less than 1% of the world's refugees are ever resettled And so resettlement is actually for the most vulnerable of these populations, which you see the ones who get prioritized are women and girls at risk, survivors of violence and torture, family reunification efforts, and then those with high medical needs, and then also children at risk. And so again, most people will spend their lives in a refugee camps. And so the ones that we are receiving are the most vulnerable of those. And so that's it for the next slide.
Thank you for expanding on that, Lindsay. Okay, so now I'm going to transition a little bit and talk about parolees. So there are three main relevant statuses that I want to discuss. The first is humanitarian parolees. So this is, the two that you see on this slide are very commonly associated with the Afghan new arrivals. And I think humanitarian parolees may also be common amongst Haitian new arrivals as well. So we all saw in the news in August that many Afghans were being evacuated from Afghanistan, and many of them have been brought to the United States at this point. And so how are they able to, get on a plane and end up in the United States, or at least, stop in a third country and come to the United States? Well, it was through the humanitarian parolee process. So many of the evacuees obtained this parole status, and this is a response to an urgent humanitarian condition in a person's country. It provides approximately 1 to 2 years of residence in the United States. So it is a temporary status, and that's why people who have this status have to apply for some other method to stay in the United States for longer if they want to, or if they can't go back. Many times these people are going to seek asylum, which is, we're not going to discuss that because this isn't necessarily, how to get asylum seminar, but it is the kind of status that they're going to go for. And so you'll hear with other service providers sometimes call people with parole status asylees, because they're seeking that asylum status. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. The second status, immigration status, is a special immigrant parolee. So you heard me talk earlier about the special immigrant visa for people who help the US military in Afghanistan. Well, these parolees applied for that visa, but they were not able to obtain it in time for the political situation there. So they're evacuees who were very close to getting that SIV visa, but they weren't able to get it in time. So the US government offered them this parole status, so that when they come to the United States, they are here legally, they have paperwork, but they need to get their SIV processed. So until they get that SIV processed, they're considered a parolee. So this is a little bit different from the other parolee statuses, because yes, it is temporary, but this one does have a clear path to citizenship, because it'll become an SIV and then eventually US citizen, LPR, and then US citizen. Okay, next slide. Okay. And finally, the last parole status I want to discuss is relevant to our Haitian neighbors. So this is the temporary protected status. So the Department of Homeland Security designates certain foreign countries for the TPS status every year. And it's due to certain conditions in that country that make it not possible for the national of that country to return there safely. So it's renewed every year, and that condition that I mentioned is based off of armed conflict. It can be a natural disaster, or it can be just some extenuating circumstance that won't allow someone to come back for that period of time. So Haiti has actually been designated as a TPS country for several years. It's been designated that way since, I believe, 2010 when the earthquake hit Haiti. And it's just that it has to be renewed every year, depending on that country's conditions. And so it was renewed on May 22nd of 2021. And so many of our Haitian neighbors may have this TPS status. All right, moving on. Okay, so now I want to talk briefly about backgrounds of kind of the processing that people go through before they come to the United States. Next slide. So we'll first talk a little bit about refugee background. And this may give you some insights as to why there are only 1% of refugees who come here. And that's because the process can be very competitive, not competitive, but rigorous. It's only for the most vulnerable populations, like Lindsay said. So the first step is that something happens in your home country, war, a natural disaster, something very extenuating, urgent, and it forces someone to leave their home country and go to a third country. You have to cross that border. You have to leave your country. And once you do that, there has to be, you have to find a UNHCR office to be able to register yourself as a refugee. Once you're able to do that, then your resettlement in that country begins. That person is taken to a refugee camp, and they go through many, many screenings to determine whether they can be accepted, be approved as a refugee. And like we said, that's not very common. Next slide. If you do become approved, then you can end up coming to the United States, and you're welcome to the United States through a resettlement agency in most times. And a lot of times that's resettlement agencies like Inspiritus, the International Rescue Committee, and some others. Next slide. And I should mention actually that in the refugee camps, while people are there, they're not fun camps. They're very, they have very high crime rates. The conditions are very poor, and people are, surviving off of kind of the donations that the UNHCR gets. So I just did want to note that as well. So I already kind of talked about the background of parolees while I was explaining the legal statuses. They are, in the Afghans case, they're evacuees, they're at-risk individuals in both cases, and they're going to be seeking immigration relief most likely. So I have a few videos that kind of provide you with more background on the situation, if Kimberly will play them.
The U.S. is implementing a process called Humanitarian Parolee. The U.S. is implementing a process called Humanitarian. The U.S. is implementing a process called Humanitarian.
On the fate of thousands of migrants camped out on the border of Del Rio, Texas. The Associated Press reports many people from the mostly Haitian group are now being allowed to remain in the U.S. while they seek asylum. That's after a number of recent deportation flights back to Haiti. Manuel Bajorquez is in Del Rio. Manuel, good morning.
Good morning. That AP report claims that many have been released with notices to appear at an immigration office within 60 days. And in fact, we have seen for ourselves at one location here in Del Rio where dozens were allowed to enter. As we await word from Homeland Security, this will likely only add to criticism of the Biden administration's response.
President Biden says his administration is handling the influx of mostly Haitian migrants at the southern border.
The Biden administration is a man-made disaster of inhumanity, of epic proportions.
Republican Texas Governor Greg Abbott visited the camp Tuesday, expressing doubts that all the migrants would be processed soon.
The only thing that they've shown is an incapability of dealing with this crisis candidly in a way where they pretend it doesn't even exist. And we're here to tell you, it exists.
Border Patrol agents that were seen on horseback grabbing and lashing out at migrants are now on administrative duties pending a Homeland Security investigation. The administration has sent additional Border Patrol agents to the area as more than 8,000 migrants remain in the camp. With other sections of the river now off limits, this shallower stretch of the Rio Grande has become a lifeline. Many come over here to the Mexican side to buy food to bring back to their families at the bridge camp. Gregorio Jean-Pierre arrived with his wife and child. He crossed into Mexico looking for food for them. You've heard about the deportation?
Sí, como tres aviones se fue.
And what do you think? ¿Qué piensas de eso?
¿Por qué hacer eso?
Why do that? ¿Por qué
No sé, todavía
si te
nadie lo
regresan
sabe.
a Haití, ¿qué tienes ahí? Do you have anything in Haiti?
Nada.
And as we visited the Mexican side, we noticed that authorities there are also cracking down and limiting the migrants' movements, leaving many of them feeling stuck and, of course, fearing deportation. Nate?
Now, we normally don't see Haitian migrants in large numbers at the southern border. Why is this happening now?
Well, many of them fled the island nation after that devastating earthquake in 2010 and obtained jobs in South America, including in the run-up and during the Olympics in Brazil. But largely due to the pandemic, those jobs have dried up, and rumors spread that this was the best place to try to enter the U.S.
Manuel Bajorquez in Del Rio, Texas. Thank you.
Kimberly, if we're not able to play that video, that's okay. I think can explain it.
Yeah, if you don't mind doing that, that'd be great.
Sure. So that video was explaining so it was from August of last year, when kind of everything was happening in Afghanistan, and it was explaining how at the time the United States was evacuating people from the country. There was a lot of certainty surrounding how they were being evacuated. So they were explaining that they were using the humanitarian parole to bring people out of the country. There were concerns about the future of the country in the video as well, just talking about the change in government and everything. And I believe that's kind of the overall overview of what the video was talking about. Sorry, I wish we could have played it, but yeah, okay. So next slide. Okay, and this is a good kind of overview of that process that the video was trying to explain as well, I think. So after people were evacuated, they went through screening in a third country, actually, so they weren't all brought into the United States. A lot of them went to the UAE, and they were screened there. After that, when they arrived to the United States, they were taken to military bases to complete health screenings and also immigration paperwork and stuff. And then at this time, they determined whether people had US citizenship or green card status already. And if they did, then they were able to leave and go to their final destination. If they didn't, they had to stay in the base for an extended period of time to further be processed. And then eventually, even though they are not technically refugees, they were sent to resettlement agencies that help to resettle them. And also, community partners are now assisting as well. So Lindsay will actually tell you a little bit more about the parolees that she's been assisting. Next slide. And this is just a chart showing the current numbers of specifically of humanitarian parolees that came here from Afghanistan. And you can see that in Georgia, there's about 1,800 or so. This is an approximate number, but the numbers were taken from some pretty reliable sources. Next slide. Okay, that's all for me.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Nicole Sherman, and I'm an attorney at Georgia Legal Services Program. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit tonight about the public benefits that our new neighbors will be eligible to receive, and then turn it over to my colleagues to talk about what other resources are available in their agencies for our new neighbors. The next slide. Thank you. So a law was passed in 1996 that made refugees eligible to receive public benefits to the same extent as US citizens. And then there were some further developments in 2009 when an act was passed which allowed Afghans living here in the United States on special immigrant visas to be eligible for most federal benefits to the same extent as refugees. And then next one, please. So in response to the rapid evacuation and resettlement of Afghans, in 2021, Congress authorized that citizens or nationals of Afghanistan that were paroled in the United States are eligible for mainstream benefits until March 31st of 2023, or at the end of the parole term, whichever is later. So this is also the case for spouses or children of these individuals who are paroled in the United States. The next one. So now, as you can see from the chart in front of you, most federal public benefits are available to our new neighbors. I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the more common benefits and what they entail. Most of you are familiar with the SSI program, which is a federal assistance program that provides monthly cash payments to elderly, blind, disabled individuals who have limited income or assets. One thing to note for all individuals who were eligible to receive SSI is that this year there was an increase in benefits at the beginning of this calendar year. The SNAP program is a federal assistance program that provides monthly cash, that provides benefits to low income and eligible households for food on an EBT card. And those benefits I'm confusing myself here, can be exchanged for food at authorized retailers. Also, some good news is that the SNAP allotment this year increased, so that will mean that there's more benefits available to our neighbors. And then finally, the Temporary Assistance for Needy Family Program, we often call it TANF, that offers a wide range of benefits and services for low-income families with children. And then, of course, Medicaid, which is our joint federal and state program that finances the delivery of medical services, as well as long-term care services and supports to lower-income populations. In Georgia, which would include children, pregnant women, individuals on disability, and people over the age of 65. Just one notation is that the cash assistance and the medical insurance programs are income-based. So once our neighbors have enough income from a job, they may have these benefits reduced or stopped. Okay. And that just continues to go and show what benefits each category of individuals would be eligible for or not eligible for.
I can jump in just 1 second, Nicole.
Sure, of course.
Thanks. This chart actually is not specific to the communities that we're discussing today. So if they're not new arriving Afghan evacuees, and not new arriving Haitian individuals, this is the typical chart that you could follow. Humanitarian parolees on a regular basis are not eligible for many public benefits, and TPS individuals are also not eligible generally. But if they are Afghans or Haitians, then they have much more access to those public benefits. So it's important to be mindful of that.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. So we wanted to tell you guys about our public benefits partners. So public benefits partners can help with SNAP, Medicaid, TAPS, WIC, and TANF. And we can help with applications, renewals, case issues. We have direct partnership with the local DFACs to mitigate those. We can help our neighbors and our community at large. We have partners, we have people that can do it at Savannah, First Expanded Baptist Church, St. Mary's Community Center, Wesley Community Center, Savannah Technical College, Moses Jackson Advancement Center, Pennsylvania Avenue Resource Center, Forsyth Farmers Market, and Ready to Connect.
All right. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for including me on this event. So I'm Cynthia Kennis with Catholic Charities of South Georgia, and I will just briefly explain some of the services that we do offer here in Savannah. You might be familiar with one of our centers, the Social Apostolate, which is located off of East Liberty, and they are one of our 11 outreach centers that we have throughout South Georgia. My office here within the Diocese of Savannah, we oversee the Catholic Charities outreach centers throughout the region, and we cover around 90 counties here in South Georgia. So one of our main contributions is that we do provide direct services to everyone, and it could be a combination, whether it be at our outreach centers or through one of our parishes, but they are located throughout all of South Georgia. Now with my office here, we do coordinate some special events or programs, and we do also have a range of community resources as we partner up with new organizations or agencies. We do like to keep a database of all sorts of resources that are out there in a community. And we recently, this past fall, hired a new team member here for our office, and that's a community navigator specialist who is fluent in Spanish. And on the screen, you can see the direct number where anyone can go ahead and give us a direct call or email us any of the needs, and we'll try to make that connection with that agency throughout South Georgia. If it's something that's outside of our region, we'll try to connect with the nearest Catholic Charities agency, as we are connected with Catholic Charities USA, and there are agencies pretty much all throughout the nation. So we try to make that warm connection with another agency out there. Now, on the next slide is basically a donation drive that we coordinated as soon as we found out that we were going to be receiving our new neighbors, from Afghanistan. We basically mobilized our Catholic community within our diocese to set up a donation drive here in Savannah. This was a flyer that we were passing out, and we did have a couple more contributions, but the difference is that as we're seeing, new neighbors coming from Afghanistan or from Haiti, is that with Afghanistan, we were able to know what we were expecting. As we reached out to Inspiritus or to our sister agencies in Atlanta or in Jacksonville, we kind of had a heads up of what to expect, what the needs were. So we were able to mobilize and quickly put out a call to mobilize our community and really let people know what it is that we were, looking for. On the next slide, please. Okay, so this is just, some of the notes that we had for this event. Back then, we were kind of letting people know that even though our agency is very small at this point, we don't have a resettlement program yet, but hopefully we will in the near future. So what we did was just really take on that support role we reached out to our nearest community partners, Atlanta, Jacksonville, and being able to see what is it that they were needing. And at the same time, we were sharing information for the general community as well as to where you can go and be able to assist, whether you were here in Savannah, whether you were in North Carolina or Atlanta, anywhere that you were at. We were trying to put all the links up there so that way people can go ahead and go on there, whether it be ordering items from their Amazon wish list that would be directly sent onto the agency's point of contact, or if you wanted to receive information directly from the USCCB, which is the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, and that is one of the 9 resettlement agencies here in the US. We were really trying to make that connection, as well as working with our sister agency who handles the international side, which is the Catholic Relief Services, so that they can go ahead and be able to connect and learn more about what is going on in those countries. And if you wanted to get involved with doing advocacy or helping out with individuals in those countries internationally, you can go directly through CRS. All right, next slide. Okay, it's just a summary report of what we did during that week-long drive here in Savannah. We obtained about close to $2,000 with financial contributions. We did receive a lot of donations, which were essential items that were needed. And thank you everyone that might be watching and helped us out with all this. We put a list that we were looking for, for bedding, for kitchen items, basically anything you could think of when you're going to move into a new home, simply because our neighbors that were arriving from Afghanistan had nothing. If anything, they might have had some documents, a little bit of items, but they really needed assistance and still need assistance in furnishing an apartment. And a lot of the items stay here in Savannah, of course, but we also were able to fill up a 26-foot U-Haul trailer that was driven down to Jacksonville to help out our sister agency in Jacksonville. We contributed to Catholic Charities in Atlanta by directly buying beds online through Amazon and having the items sent directly to them. And of course, working here closely with Lindsay as items are needed, being able to help them out. One of the bunk beds, we basically was from the donor straight to one of the apartments. So it's been really great to be able to see how the community has been coming together in these times of needs. Now, I do want to mention that with our neighbors from Haiti that are arriving, we really don't know what to expect, just because when we find out that they're here, it's because they've reached out through us through a phone call, or because someone did a warm connection and let them know that we are here. So as we're coming across new families that are calling us, we're basically trying to connect them with the right agency or the right office, or see what needs it is that that are needed at that point. I do want to mention that what's interesting about our neighbors coming from Haiti is that as they're doing their journey, whether it be through South America, coming on through the US-Mexican border, is that they are really fluent in Spanish. So that's a really interesting item to know. So it's been easy for us to be able to help them and understand what their needs are, because both myself and the community navigator specialist, we are both fluent in Spanish. Thank you.
All right, and so now we're going to talk about the present context, the present circumstances. I know we've been throwing out a lot of terms, and it's I'm excited to be able to share what are we actually doing with the families that were arriving right now. So Inspiritus, formerly Lutheran Services of Georgia, we're an affiliate of Lutheran Immigration and Refugees Services, which is one out of the 9 resettlement agencies here in the United States. So we have office in Atlanta, throughout Georgia, Nashville, Birmingham, and the one here in Savannah. So we are currently the only resettlement agency here in Savannah, and I'm excited that Catholic Charities, we can continue to grow this community and have Savannah really be a welcoming place for our new neighbors to come. So we started receiving, and so and you can go back to that previous slide, we started receiving our, currently we are receiving Afghan clients that have gone through the system. I'll talk about those numbers, but I did want to say that we started receiving people at a time where we were also building up our capacity to receive these people, because in the past few years, we've had to reduce our programs. We had to furlough staff. I'm fairly new. I started in October. We have a 7-person staff, and everybody but one person is new, like within the past few months new. And that's because last year, well, in 2020, it was the lowest. Each year, the president makes a determination for how many refugees will be welcomed into the country. And in 2020, it was the lowest that it has ever been for our refugee ceiling. And you can see that in the administration, it went from 2016, you see that steep decline. And so that means that they had to furlough people across the country in these resettlement agencies. And so now in 2021, President Biden set the cap in 2021 at 62,000. And in 2022, the ceiling, oh, and that's a typo, it's not 25, it's 125,000. 125,000, including our Afghan humanitarian parolees. That means we, sometimes it feels like we're flying the plane and building it at the same time. And so that's why I'm so excited to be able to work with community partners, the ones that we have in place, and hopefully through an outreach like this to create even more partnerships, because we truly do need it for a successful resettlement. You can do the next slide. And of course, we did talk about briefly in Spiritus, our mission is to guide individuals from surviving to thriving. So we do have, of course, our refugee services. We also have other departments in Spiritus. We work with developmental disabilities as well, helping those individuals, foster care. And we also have a disaster relief team that will go around and help with natural disasters. And in each of those departments is about getting people who are struggling from surviving to thriving. Next slide. So when people get here, now I'm sure you're wondering, how many people have we gotten here so far? We are said, our cap is at 150, and we're nearing that number. So in October, we started receiving people. And since October, we have received over 90 people. We're sitting on a little bit over 90 people right now. And these are individuals that are consisted of big families, small families, and then we have a lot of individuals who are coming, a lot of young males who are coming by themselves as well. And we receive people every week from the airport, just about. And so when we receive people in Spiritus, our staff starts the process, the welcome package. And so in Spiritus, we walk with our clients through every step to get them settled, to get them on a foundation so that they can achieve self-sufficiency. Ultimately, that is our goal. And so we are caseworkers, so we have 2 caseworkers for those 90 people, plus our past clients as well. So we meet them at the airport. And right now, one of our biggest struggles is housing, is finding affordable housing for our clients. We currently have about 40 people in hotels right now who are waiting for us to find affordable housing for them. So we do have a few apartment property managers that we work with. We really like to set the cap at $1,200, $1,300 for an apartment for our families. Anything more than that is kind of not really setting them up for success. And what's unfortunate is that some property managers won't work with us because, of course, our clients, they don't have a work history, they don't have a credit score, they don't have past pay stubs, but there are certain ways that we can guarantee that they will get their rent. And so some people do work with us. So that's just a part of the struggle too right now is finding affordable housing. So when we greet them at the airport, And so I'm the community engagement specialist. I also engage our volunteers. I have about 80 volunteers right now who are individuals, but we also have sponsor groups. I work with a lot of churches in the area, as well as community groups and different faith-based partners. And they will sponsor a family. So they'll help us to welcome a family at the airport and really commit to visiting with that family weekly and helping them on their journey. So we take them to the hotel, which is where they'll stay at for a few weeks. And their caseworker will meet with them and start the intake process. So we do help our clients to apply for those public benefits that we were speaking about earlier. So we get them Medicaid, get them applied in their food stamps. We make sure we get their official identification document, so their social security card, their EAD, their employment authorization, so they can start working. But all of that is taking a long time. So usually when we receive our regular refugees, a lot of that is already in motion, and so we will receive their documents fairly quickly. Due to the high volume across the country, everything is taking a lot longer. So there are some people who have been here for a month or two, and they still don't have their social security card. They still don't have their EAD, which means they can't start working yet. There has been put in place like a stipend from the government. They do get a welcome money as well, about a certain sum per person, but it's a one-time deal. It helps with their rent and utilities and also for their groceries. And so we really emphasize for them to budget, but of course, because they cannot work, there is a struggle right now of really ensuring that we get food and produce and groceries for our families. So we do eventually secure affordable housing. We welcome the families at the airport. We start this process of cultural orientation, getting our clients used to our American way of life. So they're learning our bureaucratic ways, that it kind of things take a while. There's a lot of paperwork involved. And then it's simple things too, just I think things that we take for granted that we know how to do. Something as simple as grocery shopping. Our clients really need help navigating the aisles and looking at all the different product and how to budget when you're there. And then once you're at the once you have your groceries, you know what needs refrigerated after you open it. How do you check your mail, and what's junk mail and what's the bills, and why is this person who doesn't live here, why do I keep getting their mail? And so we like to try to help explain our way of life, and our volunteers really help with those things. So we have a very informal cultural orientation, but also formal classes where we have budgeting classes and employment classes where we sit down with them and really make sure that we're setting up our clients for success. We have a partnership at Savannah Tech, so we enroll all of our clients in English as a second language courses. They have virtual and in person. Of course, everybody's different. So some of our clients do not speak English at all. Some of them, mostly the males, do know a level of understanding for English because they had worked with the military. Some of our clients are very, very traditional. Some of them are more westernized, so to speak. But they all do get registered for ESL. We also are enrolling all of our children in school right now. Very exciting because we have a lot of new students for them, and so we're working with the school to make sure that teachers and counselors are prepared for them as well. There's a few school like May Howard Elementary, West Chatham Middle School, Groves High School that have ESL courses, so they'll be assigned to those schools accordingly. But within that, we're all, people will ask me, well, what are the biggest needs? Like, what do you need for donations? And it's all across the board. Right now, we need school uniforms. We do have some school supplies, but I think we'll need more of that. Yeah, so we get them enrolled. We do have an after-school program as well that right now it's virtual. We'll have in person here soon where we do homework tutoring, but we also want to build resiliency and mental health base and just fun things for the kids to do, but those type of wellness programs as well. We ensure that they have a health screening once they get here. So we work closely with Curtis V. Cooper and do extensive health screenings. Everybody has been, while they were waiting in military bases, got their COVID shots, but we make sure once they're here that everybody is up to date on those shots and boosters and the children, etc. Let me see, what else do? We do so much. So we get them enrolled in school. We find jobs for them. So once they do have all their paperwork put together, we have an employment specialist, and she builds partnerships with employers and matches the skill with of our clients with the jobs that are available, and with ones that are a livable wage, right? So that's a big, we're always looking for those partnerships as well. I will say that especially our Afghan clients, they do tend to be highly educated and skilled. We have computer programmers and engineers and business people and like people with degrees, but none of that transfers over and translates. So all that training and certification, and it doesn't exist. And so unfortunately, we do have to put them in jobs, like we do a lot of hospitality, or a lot of like manual labor, or working in childcare. We just try to find and we do, and it's part of the cultural orientation that when you're here, you know, the first apartment we get you, the first job may not be ideal, but you know, here in America, we believe in our hard work, our rugged individualism, and so they work hard enough, you know, that they can build the skills and get a job that they really want. And what's beautiful is that we do have some previous clients of ours who settled here 5 years ago from Afghanistan, and they are doing just that. So they're even connecting with us to help these new arrivals. And so, you know, they're driving cars, and they're in a job that they really like, and they've moved on. Some of them have bought houses. So it really is possible. It's tough. And I think even that's a part of some of the culture shock, is that I don't think some of our clients realize how tough, you know, that the cost of living, especially now, is even more than it has been. I think maybe some of them were also expecting maybe some more help, but it's we do get people started and on their way towards self-sufficiency. So we do all of this within the first 90 days. It's our goal to have all of these boxes checked off, in that after 90 days, after 3 months, they're pretty settled and they're on their way towards self-sufficiency. So we have clients now who they're reaching their 90 days. And that's what's difficult about this too, is that we have over 90 clients, and they're all on different varying levels of completion, so to speak, towards this. So it is it's a lot that we do, and we could not do it without the community. I feel like I'm even missing some things that we do, but that's a lot of it. Next slide. And I think these are just some pictures here that I put so you can see us in action of our wonderful volunteers. So when we do finally find our apartments, we are required to furnish the apartments with the essential items. Everyone has to have a bed and a dining room table. Not every person, but a dining room table and couches, and we have to have the houseware items and the kitchenware and plates and glasses for everybody. And so we're taking donations for those type of items all the time, but I also need people who will help me set up the apartment. So I have great people who do that. To the left, that's one of our sponsorship groups, the Zen Garland group, and they are sponsoring a family. So they met us at the airport, picked up the family, put together a little welcome package for them. And now they visit weekly with the family, and just, you know, and that's a big part of the cultural orientation is our volunteers, is to, you know, kind of help with those everyday questions, and, you know, how to operate the crosswalk. Oh, bus transportation, that's a big deal too. Of course, they do not have access. They don't have a driver's license. And so we teach them the bus, but our volunteers will like get on the bus with them and really help them to navigate that. And we do know that the bus system here can be really tricky, and I think and that's why I think all the agencies, we're working with different clients, but our clients all have very similar needs in the end. And it's very like, we need affordable housing, we need a comprehensible bus transit system, right? And then in the bottom picture is our picture. We partnered with Georgia Legal Services and Catholic Charities, put this together, where they put together like a Know Your Rights family service plan, where we actually brought our clients, and we had a translation there, and they went over different topics like power of attorney, tenant rights, guardianship rights, and all of that. So it really helps us, because again, we have to do these cultural orientation classes, even if our partners can help us with that, because right now we really are sometimes struggling to keep up with everybody's timeline. Next slide.
Lindsay, don't mean to cut you off. I just want to ask a question so that people who are listening will know. You indicated there are several opportunities to volunteer and to or to drop off items or to donate. Can you please share where they can do that if folks who are listening would like to participate and volunteer their services, their time, their talent, or their resources?
Absolutely. So my contact information will be shared at the end of this. You will contact me. So send me an email, call me, and we can talk about it. There are lots of ways to get involved through the First Friend program, after school, donations, all of that stuff. So definitely get in contact with me, and I will get you set up. And so that will be shared. And so people who are volunteering, or even if you are a partner or an agency and you want to see how you can fill in the gap, a big part of my job is to just create those spaces for in whatever capacity, whatever gifts you bring, we can make use of it. And so everything I just kind of talked about for what Inspiritus does falls within these categories. So these are all of the services we provide. You can see how in the circles, all of them are really working together very closely. And so I just wanted to mention that within those first 90 days, we get that checklist. We're working really closely with them. Like the caseworker is always checking in on them. But after those 90 days, our services kind of like taper off. We're still available, but because our goal is self-sufficiency, we're not checking on them up as much. And I think this is too where a lot of our partners can then kind of step up for that safety net, that we can refer them to other places when they get to this point. And so we are available for them up to 5 years. And so we do have, that's a part of our social adjustment services, is that and a lot of people, they'll just reach out to us because they need help reapplying for their benefits, so for renewal. And most people do achieve self-sufficiency, and we don't hear from them as much, but we do know that everybody needs help. And I think that if we were able to build up more resources for them available that they could go to, that they would take advantage of those services, but that they're less likely to reach out and ask for it, right? So we just made it more accessible. Then people don't have to ask for help, because I think our clients are very aware of that how much help that they have received, and so they do want to prove to themselves and to us that they are self-sufficient. And we do have an intensive case manager, so if someone really is not adjusting very well for various reasons after those 90 days, they'll get referred to intensive case management, where they will be checked in, every month to make sure that they're doing okay. Next slide. And I think that was really, everything that we do, we are experiencing a lot of barriers. There's challenges, there's needs. I've already touched on most of them, but of course the big one is our lack of affordable housing. When I made this, I said 30, but we received a family of 9 on Monday. So it's close to 40 people who are in a hotel right now. Can you imagine being in a hotel with 5 of your kids for 4 weeks? And so that's a big too. I tell the volunteers, just please take them somewhere, get them out. And it's really difficult for the clients too, because first of all, they've gone through so much. Many are traumatized. Many have been waiting in military bases for months. And then they get here and we say, oh, you gotta wait longer, So the many of them, they're ready to start working, and every single time we got to be the bearer of bad news and say, no, just wait. So it's very like, with the mental health needs as well, I feel like people are very, not only with the trauma, but now they feel very powerless, they feel anxious, they feel frustrated at the system, and they're relieved and they're grateful, but there is like just this human aspect of like, they're just being told to wait. So slowly but surely we'll find affordable housing for people, but it is a struggle. I mentioned that there's the backlog of paperwork. All of it is delayed, which is adding to the frustration. I mentioned too, we just have such a high capacity. I talked to some of my coworkers in Atlanta who've been doing resettlement for 10, 20 years, and they tell me they have never experienced the high volume that we are right now. And so that's when like I feel like, oh, like we can't do this. Everybody is feeling this, even the most experienced of resettlement people. So all of us newbies at my office, I'm like, guys, we're doing a good job. Everybody is feeling the strain right now. And so I know my caseworkers, they are stretched right now. And so that's why, again, community support is vital. Our clients do need help with budgeting, managing finances. There's in Atlanta, they have a whole budgeting department for the refugees. We just don't have that yet. And so it takes individual conversations, but that's a big gap that I think that could be filled through our partner agencies. There is a huge cultural orientation gap where, just adjusting to our social norms, it can be difficult. And of course, and when we say this, like even the word, we want them to assimilate, but at the same time, American value is that you have the freedom to be what you want. And so we always want to make sure that we're not trying to take their culture away from them, that they can the beautiful thing is that they can blend it, right? And so we want them to be able to keep to their customs and to their culture, but also to adjust. And and I can't even imagine what that experience is like. But we are very careful about that. But there are certain things you got to learn to do well here. The language barrier, of course, and then I think just the long-term stability here in Savannah. And Spiritus has been here for about 6 years. And so and then last year, of course, in the past few years, we weren't resettling many people. So we got, I think people in the community knew about us, and then we had to quiet down. So now it's really about building up our awareness so we can build our full community capacity to welcome our neighbors and to help them thrive in the long term. And then there's probably so many other barriers and needs, but it comes up as like people will need different items, so like the houseware items, we need like diapers all the time, and we need like the food right now. All those people staying in hotels, they don't have kitchens, and so finding like food for them, I'm trying to find someone who can supply hot meals for them every once in a while. It would just be a treat, right? So there's a lot of gaps to fill, and I think individuals and both agencies and sponsor groups can really help us to do this successfully. Next slide. Yes, so those are a call to action. This just kind of brings us to, well, what do we need? We do need volunteers. If you have in any way drawn to this, please reach out to me. We also, I said we have a lot of people in hotels right now. We also do a program, temporary homes, where you can be a host if you feel that calling of opening up your home and hosting somebody rather than them staying in a hotel. Reach out to me. If you have donations as well, gently used items, please. We also have an Amazon wish list. We always take donations. You can write us a check, or we have an online donation as well. If you are a service provider and you feel like you can fill in the gap in any way, please do. Please help us. And then I think it's really important, just even to walk away from this, and if you don't have the capacity or time or to do it, it's important for you to at least know that our new neighbors are coming, so you can help to educate other people as well, and so that we can help everybody be aware of our incoming neighbors and and to develop that cultural sensitivity towards, because after we are done receiving our Afghan clients, and unfortunately when the Haitian people coming through, I'm sure we will eventually get some of them, but there's this referral process that right now all of our regular refugees who were scheduled to come are put on pause. So after we're done with our Afghan, we'll start our receiving refugees from all over the world, and so it's going to continue. So we're going to continue to be welcoming neighbors from all over the world, and so this will be an ongoing need. And so I'm just, again, really happy to be able to spread awareness and to advocate and to be with community partners who want to do this too. Because like I said, I feel like sometimes Savannah, we'll talk about, we work in silos and everyone's doing their own thing sometimes, but we really are building this, and that's what I love about Step Up Savannah. They're really building this safety net. And so our clients, at the end of the day, they really do need the same thing. They need, housing and food, and it's all the basic needs. And so I think that there is a lot we can do to help our neighbors, our new neighbors, and then our current neighbors, right? So I'm very excited, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Lindsay, and thank you to all of our partners, Georgia Legal Services and Catholic Charities. We're at about 7:18, and we want to be very conscious of our time. So we only have one question in the chat, but we'll take questions for anyone who has a question about anything that we discussed tonight. Lindsay, we do have a question for you. They wanted to know if you can highlight or share briefly about the partnership with Bike Savannah and how that works.
Yeah, of course. So that's just an example of one of our partners who they have a need and they were able to say, well, we can help, or we had a need and they were able to help us out. So Bike Walk Savannah, they will donate, and I think they donate to anybody, but they'll donate bikes for our clients because of course they cannot drive. And so see what that the process is, just filling out an application for the client, and then they'll get and then we'll be able to go and pick up a bike. And so that's very helpful because again, the bus system can be very difficult. And so again, that's a wonderful service, and it's very simple. And so you as a volunteer can do that on behalf of the family.
All right. Do we have any more questions out there? Jamie, I know you've been monitoring our Q&A as well as our social media posts. Do we have any questions for any of our panelists, Catholic Charities, Georgia Legal Services, and Spiritus?
Yes, as of right now, we do not on our Facebook.
Okay.
And we have not throughout this stream.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that many of our community members will catch this video, and you guys will have lots of inquiries and ways to support. Again, thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you to our partners once again, Georgia Legal Services and Spiritus and Catholic Charities. Thank you for tuning in to Step Up Savannah Live. You can find this video if you're were not able to attend in person or as a part of the Zoom meeting. Our video will be loaded after this evening. It'll be on our Facebook page as well as our YouTube page, and you can go there and share the video. And we encourage you to do that so that as many people as possible in our community will have access to this information and understand ways that they can support our new neighbors. Step Up wants to thank not only our partners, but again, our sponsors who make our work possible. And we wish you well, stay well, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep partnering to make our community stronger. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.